Tonight's reading is Red Riding Hood by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who was loved by everybody who knew her, but most of all by her grandmother, who could never make enough of the child. Once she gave her a little red velvet cloak with a hood, and this was so becoming to her that she would never wear anything else. So she was always called Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, little Red Riding Hood, here is a cake and a bottle of wine for you to take to grandmother. She is weak and ill, and they will do her good. Start quickly before it gets too hot, and on your way walk properly, and don't run off the path, or you may fall and break the bottle, and then there would be no wine left for grandmother. And when you go into her room, don't forget to say good morning nicely instead of staring about you. I will be sure to do as you say," Red Riding Hood promised her mother. Now the grandmother lived out in the woods, about a half-hour's walk from the village. And just as Red Riding Hood entered the woods, she met a wolf. But as she did not know what a wicked animal he was, she was not at all afraid of him. "Good day, little Red Riding Hood," said he. "Thank you kindly, wolf," she answered. "Where are you going so early, little Red Riding Hood?" "To my grandmother's." "What are you carrying in your basket?" "Some cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so grandmother is to have something good to make her stronger." "Where does your grandmother live, little Red Riding Hood?" "About a quarter of an hour farther on in the woods. Her house stands just under the 3 big oak trees and the nut tree just below. You surely must know it," said Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "That tender young thing would be a delicious morsel, much better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily and catch both of them." He walked along by the side of Red Riding Hood for a little while, and then said, "Just look at the pretty flowers all about here. Why don't you look around? And I don't think you're listening to how sweetly the birds are singing. You just walk along as if you were going to school, while everything in the woods is so merry." Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing through the trees and the lovely flowers everywhere, she thought, "If I were to take grandmother a bouquet of fresh flowers, I'm sure she would be very pleased. It's still so early in the day, I shall get there in plenty of time." So she left the path and ran into the woods looking for flowers. Every time she picked one, she imagined that she saw a still prettier one farther on, and so she got deeper and deeper into the woods. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" cried the grandmother. "Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, "and I brought you some cake and some wine. Please open the door." "Lift the latch," called out the grandmother. "I am too weak to get up." So the wolf lifted the latch, and the door sprang open. He went straight up to the grandmother's bed without saying a word and ate her up. Then he put on her nightdress and her cap, lay down in her bed, and drew the curtains. Red Riding Hood had been running about picking flowers, and when she could hold no more, she remembered her grandmother and set out on the way. When she came to the house, she was surprised to find the door standing open. And when she went into the room, she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself, Oh dear, how uncomfortable I feel. And usually I like being with grandmother so much. Red Riding Hood called out, "Good morning," but there was no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with her cap pulled down over her face and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my dear. Grandmother, what big eyes you have. The better to see you with, my dear. Grandmother, what big hands you have. The better to hug you with, my dear. But grandmother, what big teeth you have. The better to eat you with, my dear." No sooner had the wolf said this than he made one bound out of bed and swallowed up Little Red Riding Hood. Having satisfied his hunger, he lay down again on the bed and was soon snoring loudly. A huntsman who was passing the house heard him and thought, "How loudly the old woman snores. I had better see if there's anything the matter with her." So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw the wolf lying there. "At last I find you, you old sinner," said he. "I have been seeking you for a long, long time." Then, just as he was about to shoot, it occurred to him that the wolf might have swallowed the grandmother whole, and that she might still be saved. So he took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the sleeping wolf. When he had made 2 snips, he saw the little red hood shining, and after 2 more snips, the little girl sprang out crying. Oh, how frightened I was, how dark it was inside the wolf. Then out came the old grandmother, alive too, though scarcely able to breathe. Red Riding Hood quickly brought some big stones with which they filled the wolf's body. When he awoke and tried to run away, the stones were so heavy that he collapsed and fell down dead. They were all 3 delighted. The huntsman took off the wolf's skin and carried it home. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine and felt much better. And Red Riding Hood said to herself that she would never again wander off into the woods alone, but would mind what her mother told her. Thank you, the end, and till next time, good night and sweet dreams.